evening, everyone. Welcome to our December town hall. Thank you all very much for coming out. So just one moment, Captain Hopkins is going to come up and deliver some remarks to open up. We're going to go through a presentation, talk about some of the initiatives and things going on around the installation. Then we'll go through some of the questions that we've received so far from the community through our survey, and then we'll open up the questions and answers.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for everyone for coming out tonight. We traditionally don't do a town hall in December, recognizing that the calendar is pretty busy. I asked for one based on the number of construction projects that we're going to be having starting in the new year. Some of them are already started. Some of them are starting more, they're going to pick up, and they're going to affect the pattern of life on base. And so the big reason why I asked for this is I didn't want everyone to find out after New Year's that there's some reduction in parking. Some of the streets are going to be closed. Some of them are going to have some impacts to the way we do business here. And so we wanted to make sure we were transparent with that. We got a chance to message the community, chance for the community to ask questions back about that. And so that's the big reason why we're here. We're going to focus a little bit on January and out. We do have some things that are coming up this month. We'll talk a little bit about that. The chapel is going to talk a little bit about Spiritual Readiness Month, which is going to be the month of January. We have a whole bunch of events lined up for that. So we'll go through that. We'll talk about some of the construction concerns. The big one, I'll lead up front, is that we're going to have some impacts to the Kearney Gate and the pattern of traffic coming through the Kearney Gate. And so I just want to make sure everybody understands that. All right, so with that, we'll proceed on into the slide deck here. Leading with Public Works.
Appreciate it. Hey, good evening, Commander Cotterman. If we have a Med Public Works officer here in CPAC. All right, next slide. Okay, a couple projects I want to touch on. We can go next slide. This is just some parking structures. So the first one, we've talked about this some, if you've been able to tune into some of the town halls recently. So new parking structure coming in close proximity to the hospital, which is great news for all those trying to find parking. So ultimately, we're turning a UH parking lot there that was kind of the 12-hour parking lot into a multi-story, 460 parking spots to be able to help facilitate alleviating some of that parking pressure in front of the base. So that is actively ongoing. If you drive past, it's close to the O Club, you see the construction happening. So excited for that. Bear with us, it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's a good news story for CPAC. All right, next slide. All right, next one is going to be, want to talk about, this is a government of Japan funded new bowling alley and food court. So lots of excitement with this, having the opportunity both for our young sailors and families, opportunity to go get some really good recreation out of this new facility, as well as really, kind of update some of the food court and options and stuff that we're working through right now, and MWR does a great job with. Ultimately, the downside with this is it takes up space. So where this is going to be located is behind the galley. So right here is the galley, and then below it is the bowling alley. So directly behind the bowling alley is where the new bowling alley is going to go. So ultimately, it's going to take up the parking spot spaces behind the new bowling alley, and then it's going to have some impacts to the road that comes down close to the food court. All that for traffic patterns, as we're working on utilities, we'll put out from the Public Works Department. But as early as January, you're going to start seeing some impacts there. We're trying to break the ground and get moving forward on this project, bringing this great opportunity to the base. But again, thank you for the patience, because I know this comes at a cost with bringing new facilities in and the parking and some of the inconvenience. Specifically, thank you for DODEA, because I know they're being great partners with us and working as we try and ensure that we have the safety for bus drop-off routes and all those type of things. I've been great partners, so I appreciate that. All right, next slide.
Real quick. Any questions on that before we move on? It'll affect the high school parking.
Next slide this is the triangular parking lot that's off to the side of the NEX. It's probably most of us would like to use the one-way road that goes behind because it cuts through base, incredibly convenient. Unfortunately, we have taken that down. We're doing slope stabilization on the back side slope here. Ultimately, This, again, is another parking structure that's coming in. Will be a huge value to everyone who's parking in that area of the base for the UH that's here. Gives them an opportunity to have some parking spots, even though they don't have cars, but we know they're going to have visitors. So I know ultimately we're trying to locate this stuff in the best opportunity for the command. So right now you'll see the one-way road is currently closed doing that work, and a little bit of that parking lot. That parking lot, the rest of it will remain open through the rest of the calendar year here and likely into the beginning of the next. So for holiday shopping, there's a couple more parking spots and all that, but as we finalize the design, GOJ does, we're looking to start construction this spring on that parking garage. Next slide. Okay, this one I wanted to touch on for Akego. So if you've been up to Akego, there's an immense amount of work being done, and that community has been very patient as we've done that. With that is coming a lot of great facilities. This one specifically is life support facility, which houses the NEX, the mini NEX, the CDC, the recreation area for the gym and future pool. I put this up here, not that all of that's going to be shut down, but there's going to be a number of phase things that happen in this coming year with the new CDC coming online, the transition from the existing NEX to kind of a temporary facility next. So just appreciate the patience there. You're getting a great facility on the back end, but again, with the construction comes some inconvenience. All right, with that, I don't have specific slides for each of these, but what I want to talk through, first one, as Captain was mentioning, is we're going to have likely some traffic disruptions out by Kearney Gate. We're going through some corrective maintenance on the water line, and as we do that, we will inform the community which lanes, how many lanes, what time that impacts. But as you probably experienced, if you come in after hours, right now we've had some traffic disruptions coming in that gate. We are almost done with that section, thankfully, but we got to do a little bit of corrective maintenance outside the gate. All right, next, electrical feeders. So for all those that are in kind of the Gridley housing area and some of those other areas, especially if you've been here over the last year, this has been a challenge that we've worked through. We've done a lot of work to improve the quality of electrical capability and getting that to those homes. This specifically is continuing on that effort as we continue to work with CNIC to get additional funds and improve our electrical infrastructure. This will be an ongoing thing. What you will see is likely the generators that are on Gridley going away somewhere around the March timeframe. We'll be cleaning that up. We've done the permanent repairs for some of the primary feeders. And I'll put out to the audience, because I know it'll be a question, Gridley Tunnel. So I will commit 1 February, Gridley Tunnel will be open, if not earlier, but 1 February it'll be open. I'm sorry, great question. Great question. The question was, it will be open to cars. It'll be open to pedestrian and bicycle traffic. Cars, until we do the permanent underground lines, it's going to be closed for cars. And I know that's a super inconvenience, but it's a good opportunity to get on a bicycle or take a little bit of a walk. All right. Sewage lines, for a couple of these, this is just more routine maintenance as we're checking out the lines and understanding what repairs we need to make. You've probably seen folks around some manholes and stuff around base. We're working through the process. Government Span's been a great partner in funding a lot of the future repairs for the sewer lines and in other infrastructure. That's one of these, as well as Akego Hot Water. We're looking to do a large hot water project that will replace a lot of that infrastructure, which I think will be exciting news for the folks that are up in Akego. We've worked through some of those challenges in the past year. And then some other ones which are like the storm drain, probably less exciting for everyone, but important to me. Ensuring that when we have typhoon season, when we have a lot of rain, that we're cleaning out those drains and doing what we can to make sure that water is flowing out and not into your basements. And last one is, we're working really hard to get a project awarded for Duncan CDC. So this one depends on money, and so we're working on that, but to do some infrastructure fixes inside CDC, we're looking forward to doing that. So these are some focus areas that I know impact the community. Just want to get out and see if there's any questions.
So real quick, I want to address the potable water part of the party and just make sure everybody understands that. Number one, the water on base remains safe, right? And I want to make sure everybody understands that part. We have to do some corrective maintenance, and the issue here is the ability to access that corrective maintenance means we've got to get digging underground. That entails a lot of planning, and so we're moving deliberately through the steps of what do we have to do to be able to deliberately secure water for the maintenance teams to get in there safely, execute the repairs, and then turn the water back on. That is likely going to result in some water outages when we get to that point in the execution. We're looking at outages we're trying to minimize those outages to the minimum number of hours required to do that. But when we do bring the water back on, it'll likely require some boil water notices just as a routine measure. Whenever we disturb the water system, we've got to go back in there and do some preventative maintenance. We've got to also take into account the safety of water after we restore the system. So I want to put that out there early. As soon as we get the timeline, and we're still working through that with the city because we have to coordinate based on its location with the City of Japan, we will publish that and we'll make sure that everybody is in the know on that. We're also convening a working group with the tenant commands here on base to keep everyone informed. And also, it's a great opportunity for us to look at this from the lens of we live in an area that's prone to earthquakes and other natural disasters. And this is a great chance for us as a whole, as a community, to understand the water situation here on base. Any questions on that? Yes.
So the reason why I bring this up is because I came from Hawaii. So be familiar with what happened in Hawaii.
Yes.
Hill. A lot of public trust was was degraded as a result of some of the communication and transparency that happened at the early onset of of the water issues. The base CEO at the time stood up and said the exact same thing, right? And come to find out 2 days later, there was issues with JP5 in the water.
Sure.
So could you go further into what measures have been taken just to give that assurance, to the people that may have had some PTSD
Sure.
from those issues? Hey, did we increase testing from a medical perspective? How are we validating that everything from you know what I mean?
Yeah. So so first, I appreciate the question. Let me just start by saying this is not Red Hill, right? I'm going to put that out there right away and put it out. We're not fighting the last battle. And so I say that because we don't have any concerns about fuel. We don't have any concerns about anything else coming into the system. We have a positive pressure system that is weeping slowly. We have been continuously monitoring our water. We have continuous monitoring at the source where the water's coming in, and we monitor the temperature. We monitor the turbidity, which is would be the first indication of sediment coming in, of anything coming in, the pH, the chlorine levels, all being monitored as it's coming across into the base, as well as the temperature. We have no indications that anything's coming in. That's 24/7 monitoring. That's 24/7 monitoring. In addition to that, we have our regular routine monitoring that's happening. Where our medical team does some, our NAPAC team does some, and we're still monitoring all of that on the regular schedule. And once we get into it, once we actually break into the system, then there'll be additional testing that's required once we get to that point. But I appreciate the question, but I do want to just differentiate and push away from we're not in the same situation. Any other questions?
Still got the rest of the slides today.
Yes, we do. So
We'll have time at the end to
thank you.
Next up, N9.
Hello, Clean Family Readiness, Momo Harris. I'll have my departments come up and explain to you about our upcoming events for the month of January and some events that we have remaining in December. So we'll start off with Clean Family Service
Thanks.
Center.
Hello, CFAG, Amy Trout of Fleet Family Sports Center, the director there. We've got some things coming up. First thing we've got is emergency and disaster preparedness. Who's got a go bag ready? Who knows what that is? Awesome. So they're going to cover things like that, what to do in an emergency. So please come and see that. I think Shannon is here and she's teaching the class, so raise your hand, Shannon, so you know who we're talking about. Thank you. We also have an effective resume for civilian employees coming up as well. And that's being taught by Michelle Pierce, who is also here. And that's an in-person class. If you want to work on your resume or just need some practice, please come see her or register for the class. We also have some Department of Labor workshops as well. And they're going to talk about resumes, federal hiring. So if you're a civilian employee or dependent and you're looking for work and or getting out of the service, that's a good way to see what kind of options you have and learn a little bit more about civilian service for the government. If you have any questions, we'll be here after. Come see us.
All right.
It's like we practiced. Here we go.
Exit the tape, Mike from Fitness.
Keep going.
3 feet, there you go, that baby. If you go too far, I'm gonna be upset. Come back. There you go. Stand right there.
All right, so some future some programs that we're talking about. So Purdy's HVAC project is near its completion. We are still working on some kinks, but essentially the project is working. So if you guys have been to Purdy, the AC is now working. So summertime is going to be great. So please work out at Purdy. The second floor turnovers, NOF zone installations is still in the working process. We're essentially waiting on some equipment to come in. Once this come in, we're going to be installing those real quickly. So hopefully, as of right now, predicted time is going to late springtime. But we are expecting a nice NOF zones. If anybody has never heard or seen NOF zone, look up on Google. There's NOF zone and other installations. One really close to Sasebo, but it's going to be happening at Purdy Gym State Floor. And then we also, for those who are asking about the Body Balance program, so Body Balance is a Les Mills fitness program that unfortunately is getting replaced due to some licensing replacements. So we are looking into recruiting more instructors. We actually have a lot of yoga classes happening right now. So hopefully those classes that's being replaced by Body Balance will be replaced by other yoga instructors. So please, if you guys are interested in a different kind of format of Body Balance, which is kind of like a mind-body class, yoga is a good way to go. Okay. And we're also looking for this. We're also recruiting. So if anybody here has fitness certifications, personal trainers, group exercise classes, please come find me. We are always looking to add different kind of programs to our classes. I'm not doing Chili's.
So for Chili's, the question to answer everyone has been asking, is it closing? The answer is yes, it is closing. We are going to be looking for a new concept. What does that tells us? What's going to happen at that point is that once Chili's shuts their doors, we will be doing some turnover with them, and then we will put a temporary program called the Seaside Cafe, which will serve breakfast and lunch, and I'll have our F&B director to give you a little more info on that. But that's what we're going with, is to kind of provide you something for the time being until our new concept contract with the Nextcom contract to replace Chili's is decided, and then there will be more of the construction and all that, so there's more to follow. But at this time, yes. Answer is yes, Chili's closing. We're putting in a temp concept until the new concept is made, and once new concept is in, we will advertise for the new concept. We are looking forward to the new concept. So with that being said, I will have our food and beverage director discuss about the Seaside Cafe.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. The new concept.
Yes.
Are you talking to people?
So
where are you with that?
So new concept is actually run by the Nextcom contract team in Virginia. And they're working off of what they have already been approved and who said yes, and that's where it's coming from. So it's already.
It sounded a little bit like you said we were starting. We've been working this for about a year. Now we've been working for a year.
Sorry.
Getting into the final stages of approvals and maneuvers and changes.
So it's a piggyback off what was said here. I was speaking with Charlene from Nextcom about this, and one of the things I just want to highlight, because I know there's a lot of desires for certain food chains to come here. One of the challenges that we face being on this side of the supply chain is some of those food chains come with heavy stipulations. They will not use their franchise name if said foods are used, and so there's some that we just cannot get based on the supply chains out here. And so Nextcom's doing it. They've got a few bids. We should hear about those. I think by next month we should have a fairly solid idea of who's winning in that race, but we're not at that point to disclose because they're still soliciting at this point.
When do you think the new concept place might be in? roughly?
That's a great
That
point.
weighs out.
Yeah,
That is.
That's why we're putting in a temporary facility,
Yeah.
to just to bridge that gap,
Yeah.
especially for the Navy Lodge users.
So with having that in mind, the plan is, once we get in, we'll get a timeline of how long for them to come in to do what they need to do to set up, order their food and everything. So we'll have a general idea of that. We're just waiting for them to, next month, to give us the names of
Right.
who has rogered up and where they're at on the race suit.
Right.
But the goal is springtime to get a name. And then from there, kind of work on, and then so we'll have a better day. So that's why we have this concept coming in to kind of bridge that gap for breakfast and lunch. So hope that kind of, well, that's good. All right, so I'll turn it over to my food and beverage.
Good evening. So, as Momo said, we are going to implement a temporary concept, Seaside Cafe. So, it will be a sit-down breakfast, grab-and-go lunch, so something really simple that we can actually create and make on the spot. So, we did have a meeting with Chili's today, and the current timeline for closure will be December 31st, and then the transition will take place through January. So, hopefully with all the NAFAC projects and things that need to go forward in Chili's to correct all the repairs or any cable replacements, as well as POC or POS systems that need to be upgraded and everything, that will take place in that time frame. So we're looking at April opening for this concept. So again, it's going to be a sit-down breakfast area, and it's going to be kind of a grab and go. So morning and lunch. So that's what F&B has planned for this concept to take place. And then depending on what the projects that need to be completed, it will shift the timeline. So hopefully we're trying to get this done as fast as possible so that there's no downtime between when Chili closes and when we open. So, any questions?
Good evening, everybody. Joanna, Community Recreation. If you think you have best decorated unit, this is a contest for you. Registration is still open until December 11, when there will be announced on December 19. Stop our community center office or email them with pictures of your flowers. Next. Staying with the holiday spirit, we have Christmas movies at the Benedetta Theater on selected dates. Everything is free of charge on those dates. And our fitness team has prepared a 5K run for you guys. Registration are open right now at the tea break. Next slide, please. Tickets and Travel is ready for January tours. We would like to highlight the Daruma burning ceremony. Darumas are a little red head figures that you would pass your wishes. Hopefully they will come true. The tradition asks for them to be burned at the beginning of the year. Very unique trip. If you're interested, please stop by the IPT office. The trip is on January 15th. Next slide, please. Outdoor Recreation Center, skiing and snowboarding season is on. But if you are not really into skiing or snowboarding and prefer more calm environment, we would like to invite you to our beginner's hike at Kamakura. We'll be surrounded with a beautiful bamboo forest and we'll be able to experience some matcha tea ceremony. That's Outdoor Recreation Center. And what's coming up in January? We have opening up a book club at the library. Connect with the community, with other readers, discuss the topics on those selected dates. Dance classes are coming back. We will be offering some adult stretch, morning stretch and ballet classes at the community center here in Yokosuka. And we have a generous offer from one of the tutors from University of Maryland. He will be offering free math classes between January and March. I have. Happy holidays.
Okay, good evening. So pretty much when it comes to housing, what we have out is Christmas decorations. Of course, the holidays are upon us. So making sure you know when to actually set up the Christmas lights. Of course, everybody already started setting them up, so you're ahead of the game. When it comes to when you take them down, 15 days after the holiday. So after the event, 15 days. And of course, when it comes to times when you're gonna have the lights on and off, what I would recommend is, of course, if you have sensors, that's great, or timers would be a lot better, because of course, dust till 2200, and the whole purpose behind that is energy conservation, obviously. Another one is temporary absence recorded. So a lot of folks are gonna be going on vacation during the holidays, making sure you actually submit an absence recorder form if you're gonna be going on leave. That way we actually have track of who's home and who's not home during those times. So please make sure you do that. That way, you know, if you need to go in the house for whatever reason, we're actually able to go in there. If you have somebody that's over 18 that could actually go ahead and look over your home for you, that would be great. If you don't, please let us know. Our team would be more than happy to support you with that request. And last but not least is limited housing service hours. Of course, with most of our staff being MLC, 90% of it being MLC, we do get impacted every year with the holiday hours with local nationals. So there will be limited services 27th December through 4th January. So when it comes to processing any TLAs or anything like that, that's not a problem. Those things we do internally, our USCSs are the ones that actually process all those. The biggest problems would be when it comes to if somebody's wanting to go off base and move into an off base unit, all the agencies out there will be completely closed during that time. So for that reason, those are the kind of services that you would be impacted. Anything on base, when it comes to moving on base, that will not be impacted. When it comes to service calls on base, same thing. We should be able to support during those times. Move-in inspections, move-out inspections, all of those will be taken care of without a problem. Thank you for your time.
Hi everyone, Deborah with CYP. Our biggest thing right now is our fees. Our fees come into effect, our new fees come into effect January 1. So if families have not submitted, please know that we are updating TFIs by the 16th. So please turn those in. This is our updated PIB, our Parent Involvement Board meeting agenda. We ask all families involved with CYP, and this just doesn't include CDCs or SAC programs, but also our youth sports and our teen families as well. To come in and join and share your thoughts. We really want our families involved in our programs. If you have not already signed up, all 3 SAC programs are offering winter camps, and they've got some great field trips going on and off base. Always, we are recruiting for FCC providers here on main base and in Ikego. We are onboarding 1 here hopefully in the next month, but we are always recruiting. And there's actually new incentives for FCC providers that CYP just pushed out to us. So if you want to inquire, please reach out. We would love more providers. And then the new youth sports calendar is being posted up after this season. It'll be publicized online, but here is a quick preview of it. All right, thanks guys.
I get the opportunity to brief safety today. We're looking out for mopeds, right? We're looking out when you're taking the turns. Next slide. So we're taking our time when we're taking those turns. I know we're doing a lot more driving around Japan, so I'd ask you to talk to your sailors about driving safety, right? We all know that there have been recent fatalities around while you're driving. We take driving very, very seriously. If you have a hit and run out in town, I ask you to stop, stay, communicate to the police so that we can then have a communication out with us. If you end up having a hit and run and then you come and talk to us at MPHQ, we will help you sort through that. You're going to have to come into MPHQ, right? We're going to call you in. We're going to ask you to come in. We're going to ask you to receive your ticket, and we're going to help you through the whole process. Very, very important because it's a really serious deal out in Japan right now. These things really, really matter. And the holidays are coming. We're all going to be out on the roads. So I ask you, on base is important, but off base even more so. And oh, by the way, tell all your drivers, if they get a ticket out in town, if they're going 120 and a 70, driving is a privilege. We're going to restrict your ability to drive. You are a danger to the public. We're going to restrict that desire. I'm sorry. Safety is the #1 priority. Thank you very much. Sorry, I got motivated.
My turn. Good
Stay
evening,
in the line.
everyone. I'm there. Commander Clark with the chapel. We got lots of opportunities for all of you to practice your spirituality going into the holidays. For my Jewish folks, the Hanukkah candle lighting starts on December 14th. Every night we have a little gathering for that, so come on over to the chapel and participate in that, as well as the Catholic and Protestant opportunities throughout this entire season. We also, the Angel Tree, many of you have actually already taken part of that, so thank you for that opportunity. There might be one or two more gifts that you can purchase if you are interested. Go to the chapel. When you first come in on the left-hand side, there's a Christmas tree there. Scan the QR code and it will tell you if there's any more gifts for some kids available. But I really want to focus on our push into next year in January. So January has been declared as the Spiritual Readiness Month, and we are focusing on not just the new you, but the new spiritual you as well. An opportunity to dig deep into the core. What is your anchor? What is it that motivates you? What is it that helps you do what you need to do when everything is tough and maybe we're not getting noticed and nobody's watching, these kinds of things. So this is a base-wide initiative, and many of the other commands as well in this area are participating, and definitely throughout all of CNIC are participating in this. So what you can look forward to is seeing all the different activities and events and opportunities that we are presenting to give you all an opportunity to just tap into different things to help build that spiritual core, whatever that looks like for you all. And so we've got lots of stakeholders involved. We've got Fleet and Family. We've got USO. We've got MWR. We've got American Red Cross. Like, everybody is getting involved. And so you'll see a lot of different opportunities to do something to just kind of get the year off going well for you. All right? Any questions about that initiative that we have going on for January? Okay, great. One other thing real quick is that Credo we're providing a specific retreat that month in January for the emphasis of spiritual development. And so I highly encourage any of you, if you haven't been to one of their retreats, that you jump on board this one. This one is designed specifically for our folks here to be able to participate.
Chaps, how much does it cost?
It's free $99. All right, so it's absolutely free for all of you to participate in. You just need to go to the QR code and register for a spot, and you'll be able to go. Yeah. Okay.
Or you can say whatever you want.
How are you doing? So today we're talking about the Naval Hospital. So the big one is that we've already released our dates for the January Women's Health Day. And so that's a time, no questions asked, if someone comes to the hospital, space aid, active duty, assigned ashore ship, we'll do anything you need for your women's health needs in our hospital. The flu shots, so now that we've passed the time where we're doing the flu shot X's in the gym, you can now come to our immunization clinic in the hospital to receive your flu shots or any other immunizations you may have missed or would like to catch up on. And lastly, just a reminder for our Patient Family Partnership Council, we just had our session today at lunchtime, but on the information that's been put out, the dates for January and February are available. Again, that is where, if you have issues or concerns, please come. I have all of my senior leaders with me at those meetings to discuss in person. So if you have issues, we can discuss them there. I have the subject matter experts who are there in person to go over some of those concerns. I also want to put out regarding our telephone lines, and just so that we can talk about them. So we are looking at individually the telephone line systems in the hospital. We are not at the same systems that we have in our CONUS facilities where we have one company that can tell us a lot of information. So we are bringing that online to the Yokosuka Hospital. This will allow us to have better data on how many people are dialing each number, how long each person who dialed the number was waiting, if it fell off or died, or if it met a connection. That's the ability we have at Cona's facility and Cone hospitals. This hospital system isn't built that way, so we're building that and we're hiring a contract to implement that. The second thing, and this was discussed at the Patient Family Partnership Council, is I need data. And so we're getting reports that the lines are falling off and no one's answering them. So at the Patient Family Partnership Council, if you have numbers that you've tried, I need to know those. I need to know the number you tried, when you tried them, because then we're going to find out where that number goes to. We've searched the internet, and they are, if you don't know, there is a parallel Naval Hospital Yokosuka Facebook page that has numbers not associated with our hospital or numbers that go to random phone lines in our hospital. We've tried, we can't get that Facebook page down. And so there are other websites that have information on Naval Hospital Yokosuka. The numbers are wrong. And so we are trying to go through a lot of those different sites. If we find a number, I want to know what number you're trying to dial, because I want to figure out where that number goes to in my facility. And then we can then help educate people, because if one person's dialing the wrong number, multiple people may be dialing that same wrong number. So that's the things we discuss at the Patient Family Partnership Council. On the website information, we have the link to my chairs of that council. Those are people you can actually send questions to, and we'll discuss them and get the answers back to you. And so please help us to help everyone else, because if you're having a problem at the hospital, sometimes we need a person to be the voice for another 10 to 20 other people. And so we are working on our phone lines. We are trying to figure out what are the right numbers, and we are trying to figure out where all of these numbers are going to make sure it's not a random desk somewhere in someone's office where the person has PCS'd. So thank you all.
So we have some of these are some of the slides from the hospital also. So these will all be available. We'll have this uploaded on the website, so you can download it and post the recording of the video also. Fast forward through some of these. And next up we have USO.
Hello everybody, Carmen Williams for the USO. I just wanted to talk about some of the things we do have going on. We have a lot of our programs for December already full, unfortunately, but we will be having our Midweek Madness, which is a monthly event we do just to kind of boost morale for the sailors especially. But anyone is welcome, and this month we are starting our Rockstar Bingo. So if you are a music fan and you are a bingo fan, you come check that out. It's on the 17th. We're going to start at 5 o'clock. We'll have pizza, we'll have door prizes, and it is the holidays, so we'll have a little bit extra to give out that day. So you can definitely join us if you want to come participate in that. And then we have our Therapy Tales program, so that is one of the programs that will be featured in January for the spiritual readiness, but it is already happening. We do have 2 great canine volunteers right now. They are there at the center every single Wednesday from 12 to 1. Rookie and Penny are adorable. You can come out, you can pet them, you can play with them. We had someone on the floor with them last week. So it's just if you live a floor too high, or you just want to hang out with the dog for a little bit, come on by to the USO. We will be taking a little bit of a break from the 24th and the 31st, but then we'll be back in January strong with our Therapy Tales program again. And we will have some other great programs coming up, our regular programs to include Coffee Connections, our Ikego and Ta time to reach the community there. So definitely wait for our calendar and check us out. And that QR code right there will take you to all of our links, as well as registration for future events. Thank you guys.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary McKeel, and I'm the director of the American Red Cross here. As we head into the holiday season, please know that we will continue to be present and available for you all in emergency situations. Our office will be closed on the holidays proper, the federal holidays, but we do have a duty phone as well as normal hours outside of that. And we, of course, always have our 24-hour call center in the States that is available both via phone and via our website. That will see no disruption over the holidays. So should an emergency present itself, we are absolutely available to support you and your families. Should that happen and your service member or you go on leave, emergency leave specifically, Do keep in mind we still have our $500 emergency grant for our overseas service members. This is $500 that does not need to be paid back and does not require accountability. So if you or any of your sailors or anyone in your network goes on emergency leave over the holidays, we know this can be a tough financial time. Please keep in mind that these funds are available to anyone and everyone that goes on emergency leave as an active duty service member. I did also want to put a bug in everyone's ears and put a teaser out that in the new year, we will officially be launching our Volunteen program with the U.S. Naval Hospital. This will be an opportunity for young people aged 14 to 17 to get hands-on experience in a medical facility. So that application period will be during February for a pilot program during spring break. We will then be launching the full-fledged program in the summer, but keep an eye out for materials on that. That will be happening in February. So pending questions, happy holidays.
Next up, Navy Marine Corps Relief Society.
I'm short, have to go here. My name is Jennifer Spate. I'm the director of the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society here. So our slide, I think, just has maybe one or two general information. But one thing I want to highlight is volunteer recruitment. We are always recruiting for volunteers to work in our office as a client service assistant, work with our budget for baby program, help with communications, and also work in our thrift shop. If you're looking for actual employment, a great way to ensure that you become employed is to volunteer. Our best volunteers tend to find a job. And so between PCSing and that, we have a lot of turnover, and it's great to network, gain experience, and we have reimbursement for childcare and mileage during your time as well. And we trade. Prior experience in anything is not required. For the holiday schedule, just wanted to highlight our thrift store will be open for sales tomorrow, Wednesday the 10th, and then we will be open next Wednesday, the 17th. There's going to be a super clearance sale on the 17th, so be sure to stop by. Thrift store last donation of the year is this Thursday, the 11th, from 1600 to 1700. Then they will be taking a break for the holidays. First donation of 2026 will be Thursday the 8th. And then the store will reopen for sales the following Wednesday, which is January 14th. Our financial services office, so folks seeking financial assistance, will be open except for the federal holidays, same as Red Cross. So we'll be closed the 24th and 25th and closed the 31st and the 1st, and regular hours almost the entire time for holidays. So, but if sailors do have a request for financial assistance, encouraged to be proactive so that we can get everyone in. We know that there's some ship movements and things like that, so we may be busy. So, any questions? That's all I've got.
That takes us to questions. First two are for Public Works.
We already nailed the first one.
Yeah, we've already
It's
answered
on.
that. So when will the hill behind the next be open for vehicle traffic again?
It's a great question. So this gets to the triangle parking lot that we talked about installing the parking garage. So ultimately that parking garage is going to take a couple of years. So by the time we break ground, we're probably talking, just for planning purposes, a year and a half to 2 years to have that constructed. Pretty large facility. So once it goes into effect, plan for 2 years. So for many of you, don't plan on using that road for a while.
Are you talking about the road going at the bottom of the hill behind, or are we talking about that road like Vander, whatever?
I'm talking about the road, thank you, Jeff. I'm talking about the road at the bottom that goes to the parking lot and snakes behind the next, the one-way road.
Yeah, I think they're also talking about the Weather Hill Road that used to be open, and that's going to remain closed. It's pedestrian open right now, right?
It is. To be determined on impacts to that road. Ultimately, this is part of the design concept they're going through and how they make the garage and if there is a entry point from that road or not. So more to follow. That's all in the design right now, and we'll provide that once it's available. Thank you.
Next questions, bear with me for a minute here to long. So CYP, since the tsunami warning this past summer, have any changes been made to your tsunami and shelter-in-place procedures for CDC and SAC children?
Hi. That's a great question, and the tsunami warning definitely made me take a look at all of our emergency action plans and the processes and everything. So yes, all programs have made adjustments to their muster points, to their routes. I know specifically for SAC, Weatherhill, we immediately made that move, and then we've had all program directors do a walkthrough to see what is actually going to work for their programs. So in hindsight, yes, we did make those adjustments. Thank you.
Next question is, why are we not using our mass notification system ad hoc for issues such as protests, utility maintenance or outages, gate closures, or any other health or safety risk affecting the base populace, as Facebook's not a reliable source due to algorithm, usage, or other factors?
Okay, so the ad hoc system, as some of you know, some of you may not know, that is our messaging system. And so if you register, there's a QR code you can register, and it'll send you notifications, send out mass notifications. So recently, today, we did a rehearsal for the joint drill. If you're registered in ad hoc, you would have received a notification saying we're entering a training environment, right? And then a secure for the training environment came out after. We have been using it for the gates. As we've changed the gate hours, I directed that. That's one of the changes that we've made, is that we changed it because that's a frustration point. If you come into Kearney Gate, you find out that it's not open. I've done it. I'm sure a lot of people in the room have done it. So we're using it for that. For things that do not impact the pattern of life on base, I'm choosing not to use it. And it's a deliberate choice on my part as a base commander. I have to manage what I consider the signal to noise ratio. If I raise up the frequency that I use it to a point where it gets tuned out, it's no longer an effective tool. And I want to make sure that I'm making sure that when we're using it, it's targeted. So we have protests just about every week that happen at some scale or some duration, and most of it doesn't impact the pattern of life on this base. And so we're choosing, that's a choice on my part, not to use it in those circumstances, because they're peaceful protests. If I felt that they were a threat to our population, or if they had some other concern, then I would be pushing that out. But because I don't consider those a threat, we are in close coordination with the Japanese police. SECO talks with them every week, multiple times a week, and they're great supporters of this base. And so for that reason, among others, we're not using it for the protest. We are using it for the outages. If we do have outages and we're targeted, I'll use and I'll hold up Ajaccio Heights. We have an issue with Ajaccio Heights. We're getting after some of their system notifications. One of the ways that we were able to work out mass notifications in that building was to use ad hoc and do a special group within that. And so we are targeting it where necessary, but we're trying to make sure that we're not just hitting your phone with a bunch of noise to the point where you stop paying attention to it.
And that was going to be the next question, why the notifications were not going out for the protest.
Yes.
So I think we've also already addressed some of the next question was about the hospital's phone systems, which you've already addressed. So I think we can go ahead and open up for questions at this time. Yes, please, ma'am. Yes.
So my question kind of piggybacks on your one about the ad hoc system.
Yes.
So I'm new to the base. I'm new to foreign travel. I did not know about this registration that you speak of. So
Okay.
QR code. In the case that there is a true emergency, for instance, the tsunami, the earthquake that we just experienced before and right before we arrived.
Sure.
I know in the States, you know, when there's an Amber Alert, my phone goes off. When there's a tornado, my phone goes off. I do not register for those alarm systems. My AT&T or whomever or wherever I am geographically located automatically does that. Do we have a system for tsunamis or earthquakes or something of that nature that is automatic? Because otherwise I'm going to sleep through it because I don't hear the big voice very well. And I'm not registered because I did not know I was supposed to.
So, well, one, we can register you for the ad hoc system, right?
Okay,
So
but that's me. I mean, okay.
sure.
Yes.
And so, and this is the challenge, right? So, if you have a Japanese service, right, and that automatically does it, right? And so, if you're on a Japanese carrier, you're going to get that. If you're on a U.S. carrier, if you're on a Google Fi, I think is the service, right? A lot of people have, or on a U.S. carrier, you're not automatically going to get that. And so, my suggestion is if that's the choice that you have for cellular service, that please register with our ad hoc system, and then you can at least get the basic information and notifications. That's where I can put it.
So can we do some kind of drive on, on base to push registration for those that didn't even know that?
So what I will do, I appreciate the question, and I think this is something that we've been internally looking at, because we've received a few complaints that, hey, I registered for the ad hoc and I didn't get anything. And so we're internally reviewing and making sure that all of the requests that have gone in have been inputted. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to push out the how to register again to all of the triads and to all of the ombudsmen. And that way they can push it out to the commands from there. And that way everybody has another chance to look at it again.
Are there any other questions?
Got one more for the potable water.
Yes.
Right, issue. Do we have a preliminary timeline? Like, is this a February, March issue, or like a December issue?
So, the potable water issue is such that we think that we're going to be constructing around the main gate for almost a year. And I say that because what we're getting after is we're getting after a temporary routing in order to get after replacement of systems that are old and need to be replaced. And so that's where we're at with it. Some of the existing infrastructure, once we start, we're going to want to replace it wholesale. That means lead times on parts. That's one of the biggest things that's driving our timetable right now, is the lead time to get some of the materials on hand. And so we anticipate a new traffic pattern at Kearney Gate starting sometime in January and extending for a fairly lengthy duration. And that's why we wanted to have this meeting, is to talk about that particular impact. Once we understand how much of the ground by Kearney Gate we have to break, we will understand better what options are available to us. Seco is over there. He already knows he's tasked with figuring out where traffic goes and how we're going to manage the inbound and outbound. We understand that there's 2 periods of time on this base where everything is really congested. It's the morning rush in and the evening rush out, right? We can predict with a fairly certain timetable when that's going to happen. That's also part of why we're doing this working group. Part of this working group is we're going to talk about that particular problem and with commands and saying, how do we get after this? And do we stagger times that people come in? And that's part of the problem set that we're looking at, is how do we manage that flow of traffic and invite the tenant commands to voice their concerns to us as we work through that problem set. But I anticipate it to be into the summer at least.
Question up here?
Now, with all the construction that's going on base, I've been here for a while.
Yes.
But it's been a problem with receiving tickets. But parking is minimal. Throughout the whole base. At the hospital, when we're trying to go, I work on the piers, and it's just like, we need a little bit of leniency, because 12-hour parking taking, everything.
So, all right, parking. Where do I have excess parking that's not being utilized right now? I've got parking over at Ichiban's, Niban, and Sanban Towers. So the unaccompanied towers have additional parking. There's also a Yokopan shuttle pickup at Sanban Tower.
I'm talking about for like going to doctor's appointments.
Understood. And this is part of the reality of that parking structure. When it opens up, 460 spots, we're going to be out of this problem. But it's going to take us a while to get there. And so the options that we have available to us is either park and ride, or walk, or take a taxi. All right, those, unfortunately, what I can't do is allow everybody to park anywhere they want and then have fire safety concerns, right? And then that's the thing that we have to make sure that we maintain our fire lane integrity. And so I understand your concern. I know that the parking's not great on this base. It's the hand that we have, and so we have to play it. And so what I can offer is park and ride options. And so the Yokopan does make us loop around. Just to answer the question before it comes up, because it always comes up, well, why don't we get 2 Yokopans moving in both directions? It's not efficient. The studies have already been done on it, and one of them always gets stuck and it jams in traffic the way that the traffic pattern goes. And so making the circle route that it does right now is the most efficient use of that Yokopan time and gets around the fastest around the base. But Sanban Tower is what I'd say is park and ride. is an option available for everybody. And so those towers, why do I say those towers? They're unaccompanied housing, and as PWO pointed out earlier, unaccompanied sailors don't get cars. Right? But I hear your concern. I know it's valid. We're going to get to better, but I can't allow parking in places that's not authorized.
I will say the Naval Hospital's parking has gotten a little bit better now. That I've noticed that there's not as many employees, so even in the middle of the day, I'm still finding a spot. It has gotten a little bit better. I have noticed that.
Still the same number of employees.
Well, yeah. They're not there.
We've encouraged my staff to park in other places and do the same thing that Captain Hopkins mentioned, which is parking by the exchange and taking the Yokopan over to the clinic, to the hospital. Parking behind the Oak Club, even, borrowing some spots from Command Hill. I know that they're not too happy about that. And so then we just walk a little bit further. So understanding that I feel that we're part of the community as well. So my staff are actually parking a little bit further to allow patients to have parking spots as well. We're also at the hospital, we're looking at things that you come to the hospital for that you don't need to come to the hospital for as well. That's why there's a lot of the queue anywhere if you're going to pick up medications. You just click your phone, register, it'll tell you now you can pick it up. So now you know you only need 3 minutes into the hospital or 5 minutes as opposed to waiting 15 or 20 minutes. The virtual overseas screening. So just want you to know that we're part of the community as well. So we work at the hospital, but we also feel the same pains that other people feel. So my staff have begun to park in further out other places, but we are doing the same things Captain Hopkins is recommending, to park in other places and take the Yokopan for a walk to work as well.
And so that's what we've been partnering. The hospital's been a great partner on this issue. We've had conversations, and so we have limited number of parking. It's not going to increase in the near term. Right, we're going to get there in a year or so, but we're not going to get there in the near term. So what do? We've got to work on reducing drivership. We've got to drive, neck down the number of cars that are on the road. They're trying to get somewhere, and if we can reduce that, so there's multiple approaches. One is more parking, but the other one is fewer drivers. Right, if we get to fewer drivers, and the community takes some responsibility on that, that helps us out.
Do we have an estimated timeline on when the fire panels in each of the towers is going to be addressed in terms of the constant supervisories that I always seem to see? I happen to live in Himawari. It's been beeping since about middle of last year, but I know that I've walked into other towers and it seems that there's always some supervisor. And now there's a, probably just for me, but there's a sign saying, hey, don't call dispatch, we know about this. So I don't want people to get desensitized to a fire panel going off.
Sure, absolutely.
Do you have any insight on that?
Himawari itself, the action fire system there is operational.
Right.
So like Ajisai, where we have the other system where some of the system is functioning, but the actual portion that sends the signal to the fire department is not functioning. It's definitely like a whole different situation. But with Himawari, I mean, this is something that there's several things with the panels themselves, especially depending on the time of the year, especially when we have the hot season. Condensation is one of the biggest problems with those panels. Fortunately, here in Japan, we deal with a lot of humidity. And when that water gets in those electrical systems, they tend to activate them. So this is a known fact. That's why you'll notice usually during the winter time, air is dry, we don't have as many issues. So yes, we don't want anybody to feel like this is a normal thing, they always go off. Right. We're looking at possible replacements. Of course, when it comes to replacing these systems, some of the things we gotta look at is, are we gonna be able to bring down the whole building for full renovation? Or are we just gonna go ahead and replace the panel? Which in most cases, what we wanna do is actually set it up in a time where we can actually get the full building renovated. And Himawari is actually one of the buildings. Fuji is the first building that we're looking at for renovation, and then Himawari will be second. So those kind of things are full in place. Right now, the system's functional. It's just, yes, we do have those inconveniences every once in a while, but we're definitely monitoring every bit of it. And the team, CS1, it's not an actual CS1, it's the name of the team. The contractor that we hired was CS1. They actually go out there and basically go and test the system all the time to make sure everything's functioning. But yeah, I do apologize for that inconvenience.
Secondary to that though, as somebody who's worked in EM for 15 years, I knew to call it in to dispatch and be like, hey, there's a supervisor on the panel, there's trouble on the panel. But what would you recommend us as a populace to do? Just, again, take a look at it, know what to recognize? Like, is there a way to educate the public as to what we're supposed to do until this is a fix?
Definitely. What I would say is if you notice something off, please call housing.
Okay.
You call us, we'll actually get the fire department out there right away so we can go ahead and put eyes on it, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, anything you notice that doesn't seem right, please call housing. We'll go ahead and have our folks there. If it's after hours, of course, please call our 243-555-55, which goes to the PWD side, and they'll actually keep us in the loop as for what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just with the discussion about parking and leniency, and is there any way we can make outside of the mail drop off like a 10-minute, like a drop off point?
So there's, are you talking about right outside the locker?
Right
pickup?
by, yeah. So when you're dropping off your big packages, but you can't find it with a
postal lockers or the
postal lockers, the lockers.
So the lockers that you scan, there is always parking in the Fleet Theater right next door at the Benny Decker Theater.
The high school.
The high school Benny Decker Theater.
Right. I'm talking about during the high school, when the high school is in, right? There is no parking over there.
Okay, but I would argue that right behind Taco Bell, which is less than a 5-minute walk, there is sufficient parking there. We have looked at that. And the problem is people who park there. So I had two experiences. One, we have bikers who go around and put themselves in traffic. There's our number one. Two, I recently viewed someone who was in a wheelchair having to go around a car while they were going through. There is spots in the back if we're talking about going to the big post office. And then for the lockers, there is always parking within a 5-minute walk.
So let me take this one too. I'm gonna. So yeah, here's the answer. So when Andy came with a great plan to take away all the parking, here to help.
Reasonability.
Here's the thing. Like, it is a fire lane, right? And so I need the public to recognize that is a fire lane. That particular spot is a fire lane. I am willing to go and take a look at it again. And so initially the plan was we were going to take out down start building the new bowling alley, and then also take out the existing bowling alley to build unaccompanied housing. And all of that lot, the entire lot, for the galley, for everything was going to go away. And I said, that's too much pay. I can't do that. I can't do that. So we'll take a look at it. I think that the answer, though, is that I've got to work with the regional fire team to make sure that whatever policy we put in place is executable for them. Because at the end of the day, I can't allow a parking situation to create a fire hazard. And so we'll go back to the drawing boards, take a look at it, especially as we start taking away more parking, because it will pressurize the parking in that area. But we just got to take a look and see what are our available options so that we maintain the fire lane.
Yeah, so thanks.
Yes.
I have two. Clarification on the new bowling alley, behind the old bowling alley, right? But then what's happening to the old bowling alley?
Yeah, unaccompanied housing.
So it will stay in place until the new one's operational? Yes. Okay.
They wanted to take it all at once and demo the new the old bowling alley while they build the new one. And I said, that's too much pain, too much parking, too much. So we compromised and said, we'll build the new one. When the new one's complete, we'll drop the old one.
Second question.
Yes.
Just back to water for a second.
Yes.
I'm sorry if you already said this, but you said there's a small leak, not your words,
Weepage, yeah, so.
Yeah. Is there concern about that progressing? I mean, I know you're monitoring it.
We're monitoring. What we're doing is we have been in contact with the city. We've been in contact with some contractors. So the same contractor that's been working outside of on the inside of Kearney Gate and doing all of that stuff, we've been in direct comms with them and the city to extend their work area out. The problem is we don't have the materials. And so that's where we're slowing down. We're being deliberate about our repair so that we don't get into a situation where we open a bunch of things up and then find out we can't put it back together. And so we're being slow about it, deliberate about it, to be corrective in our action and to minimize our outages. Because if we were to just rip into it, there's a good chance we get into more, we bite off more than we can chew. And so that's why we're being a little bit slow and deliberate. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sort of.
Okay.
I mean, if the leak, like, I mean, I came from Northern Virginia.
Sure.
And old pipes, water mains break. They started as a small
Yes.
leak, and then all of a sudden, you know.
We have a few plans in our pocket that we're holding on to for emergent situations, but we're keeping them in our pocket.
My question piggybacks on
Yes.
your comment and her question. You have emergency plans in your back pocket.
Yes.
But can you give us, I know there's no assurances. I come from hurricane land.
Sure.
Where, you know, we were for weeks without power, and water, etc. We would fill up the bathtubs. We would
Yes.
do things so we would be able to flush toilets over the course of the catastrophe or whatever. I'm fearful that this water, the pressure will go. We have a lot of earth movement that can create problems
Sure.
for the pipes as well. Can you give us a taste of what you have in place?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 3.6 million gallons of water on this base as we speak in tanks. And that lasts for, under our current usage, because we're not very water conscious, I'll just say that. That'll last us about 2 days under current usage. If we go draconian and we start to really neck down our water usage from 100 gallons per person per day down to 28 gallons per person per day, which is reasonable.
Are we executing anything toward saying let's conserve? Are we putting that out there now?
So that's part of our working group. That's part of the work group that we're fielding right now. We're not trying to say that we're in that situation where we need to do that, but we want to understand how it would look in order to do that. And part of the working group that we're doing with Lieutenant Commands is to understand that, to start messaging that, and to start figuring out, like, hey, if we did have an earthquake, 7.4, that they just had in Hokkaido, what would it look like here, and how would we be able to execute that? And that's why we're really this is a target of opportunity for us to really understand our water system a whole lot better and how we can conserve in this space. And so if we were to go from that 100 gallons per person per day down to 28 gallons per person per day, that 2 days of water supply stretches out to about 5. All right, and then we are in addition to that, we're also looking at what would emergent purchases of water be, how many porta potties would we require on this? We're going through all of this stuff just to understand it, to make sure we understand it. But I want to say, are we doing crisis action planning? Yes. Are we in a crisis? No. Right? And I want to be very clear about that. We are not in a crisis. We are doing those steps just so that we have those answers in our pocket, but we are pursuing a very deliberate and methodical solution and repair. I hope that answered your question.
I still think we need to put a conserve water. And we also were in Lemoore for 14 years.
Yes, and
we
so
were always conserving water. We were used to it. We were used to the city and the bay saying, no more water in your yards, people. We have to conserve water right now. So I'm accustomed to those kind of things.
Sure.
And I feel like that to be proactive with it, to me, would be a good course of action, because then we can stretch it to 5 days. We have longer time to get emergency water brought in if we need it. So that's all I'm saying is I feel I'm a preparer.
Sure. Can we go back a few slides, Justin? Can we go back to the, I think it was one of the first ones in our, right, go back. Right there. So this is one of the things that we routinely push out. And one of the things that we tell everybody on this base is by where we sit. We sit in an area that's prone to typhoons, prone to earthquakes, and tsunamis. We just talked about tsunamis with the child and youth programs. So this is one of the things that we ask every command to go push to all of your dependents and service members, that you have your emergency and disaster preparedness. That includes 3 days of water per person, right? And so that is one of the things that we do ask. How good are we at that? maybe probably needs improvement, okay? And just to be honest about it. But this is one of those things where you go out in town in Japan, if you go to Holmes or if you go to D2 or DCM now, it's not D2 anymore, DCM or any of those other places, they all sell disaster preparedness kits with emergency lighting, with emergency food, with water, with the first aid kits. And this is one of the things that we do recommend that everybody have on hand over here. And that is to bridge us through a natural disaster or a utility failure, right? We've had power outages. I was one of the people that lived through the power outages when we had multiple outages in February of last year, right? And so been through it. And so that's one of the things I would say, I agree, we can do a lot better about the messaging on conserve. We absolutely can. And when we do get to the point where we execute the water interruption to do the repairs, we have been taught, this is one of the things that's on the table, is we're not leaving those tanks open. We're gonna isolate those tanks. We're gonna stop the water. That way we don't bleed out that water while we're doing the repair. We're gonna ask people to do things like food tub, right? That is one of the things we're talking about. It is in discussion. But we're not putting it out to everybody right now because I don't want everybody to fill up their bathtubs thinking that right now I have a problem and I need to fill my bathtub. But good points, and we'll take it. And this is one of the things I'm having the same conversation with my kids about. Hey, we've gotten very used to Hollywood showers. Do you know how to, do the dance? If you've been on a ship that's had water hours, you know what I'm talking about. You get yourself wet, you lather up, you turn off the water, you do all the scrubbing, and then you turn it back on briefly, rinse off, and then you're done, right? And you try to minimal water. We don't do that. We can do better. Okay. Any other questions? Again, I thank everyone for coming out. I really do. I appreciate the teamwork in the community here. I appreciate everybody's interest in what we're doing. I hope this helped. So to reiterate, some traffic, new patterns coming in the new year. So especially in the city of the high school, they're going to lose some parking. We'll take a look at what that looks like, and as soon as we can, we'll publish those outages. Part of the reason why we can't push everything is that we have contractors that are doing this, and they usually give us their work performance notifications a little bit closer to. So if I had them now, I would be publishing them now. As soon as we get them, we'll publish them. Look for our media sites, they'll be up on that. And we'll push them out to the White Club Distro and to the Ombudsman group as well, just to get them out to the widest. Once we get the traffic pattern for the main gate, and because whatever happens to the main gate affects Womble Gate, it'll be for both gates. We will tell you what the new traffic patterns are. That'll also go out by ad hoc. And then the other due out that I said that we would do is we will push out the ad hoc registration information to all the triads and to all the ombudsmen, just to make sure that if it got missed, and I understand, I fully understand. I did AOB introduction this morning, and I know that when you show up and you're in the AOB classroom, you're drinking from the fire hose and you're not in the time zone. All right, so we will push that back out because that's a good reminder for everyone. All right, the one thing I will say on behalf of the city of Yokosuka, it was said earlier about driving and traffic safety. We've had 2 moped accidents within about a week of each other. All right, and so please reiterate, that is the one thing the city continues to ask me about as the base commander is what are we doing to reduce the number of traffic mishaps? We are number count lower than we were last year, but we have more with injuries, which makes it worse. All right, and so please reiterate to your team, especially as the holidays come upon us, drive safely and do not drink and drive. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.